Okay, it looks like we have the green light to go. So good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting of the Lake Mills City Council for March 5th, 2024 to order. Misty, would you please do a roll call?
Ms. Curler?
Here.
Mr. Waters?
Here.
Mrs. Bishop?
Here.
Ms. Quidnow?
Here.
Mr. Fields?
Here.
Thank you.
Please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next agenda item is Councilmember Board Reports and Acceptance of Meeting Minutes. So we have our City Council minutes from February 20th of 2024 and the Plan Commission minutes from November 28th of 2023. Are there any questions or corrections for either of those minutes? Mr. Waters.
I do see a topic was covered that I think I mentioned at the end of the last meeting, which was the Heartland Housing Initiative on affordable housing study. So it was nice to see that that was discussed in the Plan Commission.
Yes, the Plan Commission received the same report that the City Council did and had some brief conversation about it and asked staff to come up with some ideas for next steps. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Okay, we'll accept both of those meeting minutes into the record then. Thank you. So next is correspondence. Mr. Fields, I will start with you if that's okay.
Sure. I had a couple of emails on the Rock Lake, just following up from our last meeting and the report from the follow-up from the NOAA information. Also had 3 emails on the cottages, follow-up emails from our last meeting. I had the invite for the Lake Mills High School for their issues in politics. Rock Lake Activity Center, I had a couple emails and 1 phone call, and a thank you card for going over and touring with them last month. And then the email this afternoon on the focus group for the legendary Lake Mills.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Bishop.
Okay, I had 5 emails generally supporting the mill pond and its, what am I trying to say? Its use as a good natural resource for our community. And the emails were generally supportive of dredging, which is something the Parks Board has taken up discussing if they're going to make that recommendation or not. Then I had the invitation to speak at a high school class. I was copied on a correspondence from a constituent to the county rep, and then I was also copied on a request to attend a meeting by Legendary Lake Mills. They're having an elected member session.
Great, thank you. Mr. Waters.
I also had the follow-up memo from Jefferson County Land and Water Conservation Department. Had correspondence on bike lanes and the invitation from the high school teacher, which I accepted and will be presenting Thursday.
Thanks. Thank you for doing that, Greg. Appreciate
Sure.
it. Ms. Quidnow.
I haven't received any additional emails besides the ones mentioned. And we did, Lisa and I had a listening session on Sunday from 1 to 3. We had a pretty good conversation with the attendees. To summarize, there was one big issue that I think all of the people that were there could say is a main thing, and that is the Century Building. It continues to be a source of concern and conflict and question, and a lot of people are looking at, how can we help? What can we do? So that's one of the biggest things that I saw. We also talked about the library, and there was some mention of specific things that people brought to our attention, and we had advised that they talk to certain city staff to get their questions answered in a way first with them, and then if their questions can't be answered with city staff, then we can address those needs otherwise.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really nice listening session. We had 5 attendees, 4 were city residents and 1 from the township. One other thing I'll mention, one constituent in particular mentioned that there are a number of property owners on Lakeshore Drive that would have an interest in making that street a one-way street if it's going to be reconstructed in the future. So we encourage them to talk to our city manager about that. And then a question about the speed limit at the south end of town and who sets that, since it's state highway and kind of coming, into being city main street, and with the new apartments, just wondering if there's going to be any traffic issues there. Yeah, I think those are the only other ones I wanted to mention. Otherwise, I had similar correspondence to what everyone else had, and I want to particularly, people have mentioned, but I wanted to particularly thank Colton from Jefferson County. So he did put together some precipitation data and did some statistical analysis for us as a follow-up on our conversation about Rock Lake water level, so I really appreciated that. Okay, thanks everybody for those summaries. So we'll move on to questions and public comment. The public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items that are on the agenda. Public comments may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state's open meetings law discourages actions by the council on items that are not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments, and fill out the sign-in sheet provided. If there's anyone attending online, please type your name and address in the chat feature. So is there anyone here in the room that wishes to address the council this evening? No? Okay, so I see we have a few people online. Is there anyone who wants to speak during public comment tonight? Okay, it doesn't look like it, so we'll close the public comment for this evening and we'll move on to agenda item 7, which is the city manager's report.
Sure. The only thing I'll want to touch on tonight is we've reached out to the DNR to try and refine the scope and what exactly they're looking at for the survey of Rock Lake for the study that they're requiring. They're requesting a pretty high level of detail, and with the terrain, we want to be sure we know exactly how accurate they're wanting us to be, because it can get difficult when you're trying to shoot elevations in a wet, marshy area. And so when they're at the level of detail that they initially asked for, we want to make sure that we'll be able to provide it, and if the data will be useful to them, or if there's a different mechanism to achieve what it is they're looking for through use of LiDAR or something like that may be at a lower cost to the city as well. So we haven't yet heard from the DNR on it, so we're trying to refine that so that we know exactly what we're being asked to do, and that when they get it, it's what they need to make a determination.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Daly? Thanks for that follow-up. Okay, moving on to agenda item 8, council business. Our first item, letter A, is resolution 24-9 related to North Oak Townhomes. Misty, would you read that title for us, please?
City of Lake Mills Resolution 24-09, acceptance of public improvements, White Oak Home Builders LLC, North Oak Townhomes Development.
Is there a motion?
I had to pull it up.
Motion to accept resolution 24-09, acceptance of North Oak Townhomes Development, Public Improvements and Infrastructure.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walker, seconded by Mrs. Bishop. Staff.
As part of the development, there were certain public infrastructure improvements that were part of it. Those are observed and reviewed by our project engineer, Strand and Associates. They have recommended acceptance of it. They've been completed to the city's satisfaction, and the warranty period has begun on them.
Are there any questions from council members or discussion? No? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Then can we have a roll call vote on Resolution 24-09, which is acceptance of public infrastructure for North Oak Townhomes?
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next item is Resolution 24-10, which is a TID number 5 grant reimbursement, also for North Oak Townhomes. Misty, would you read that for us, please?
City Council Resolution 24-10, authorizing payment of TID number 5 reimbursement grant to White Oak Home Builders LLC, North Oak Townhomes, 1324 South Main Street, parcel identification number 2460713, 2422011.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion on this one?
I move to approve Resolution 24-10, authorizing payment of TID number 5 reimbursement to White Oak Home Builders LLC for 1324 South Main Street.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Bishop, second by Ms. Quidnow. Mr. Daly?
When the development was approved, the city entered into a development agreement with the developers, which included a TIF incentive. It was up to $516,000. There was a TIF eligible list that was included with it, largely for the public infrastructure improvements that were extended and improved upon as part of the project. They have submitted their invoices totaling $462,986.53. We've reviewed the invoices, reviewed the expenditures, and they're consistent with the development agreement, so we're recommending approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Mrs. Bishop?
Yes, I have a question. Our agenda item F also has a property in TID 5. And so my question is, do we have any other obligations currently for this TID, particularly in regard to Drumlin Crossing? And would we be able to meet those obligations if we pay this TID amount right now?
Yes, so each TIF incentive is structured in a way that the development supports the incentive that's provided. And especially with this one coming in under, we should be in a more secure space than we would have if they had come for their full $516,000. So Drumlin Crossing specifically only receives incentives when they hit valuation markers, and if they don't hit their valuation markers, then they actually pay back the difference to ensure that the loan that was taken out for it remains serviced. So similar to North Oak, the incentive that's provided is based off of the value that they created. So we project still that the TID is financially strong and will cover its costs.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a follow-up question. So this would be the only reimbursement then that we would be providing? This would be the sum total of what North Oak Townhomes would be receiving?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Misty, can you do a roll call vote on Resolution 24-10, which is the TID 5 grant reimbursement for North Oak Townhomes?
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Letter C is Resolution 24-11, Municipal Planning RFP. Misty, would you read that title, please?
City Council Resolution 24-11, resolution authorizing the city manager to issue a request for proposal for municipal planning services.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 24-11, resolution authorizing the city manager to issue a request for proposal for municipal planning services.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Quidnow, seconded by Mr. Fields. Mr. Daly?
The RFP is included in your packet. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any questions or comments on the proposed RFP for planning services? I just have one minor comment. It looks like the schedule was changed since this got bumped from the last meeting, but I think on the last page, it still has the earlier date of when the packet is due. So
Okay.
I just want to update that. I noticed it on both of these RFPs.
We will correct it.
Any other questions or comment from council? Okay, can we please have a roll call vote on Resolution 24-11, which is a municipal planning request for proposals?
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next item is Resolution 24-12, Municipal Engineering Request for Proposal. Misty, would you read that, please?
City Council Resolution 24-12, resolution authorizing the city manager to issue a request for proposal for municipal engineering services.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve Resolution 24-12, resolution authorizing the city manager to issue a request for proposal for municipal engineering services.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Fields, seconded by Mr. Waters. Mr. Daly?
Similar to the previous item, if there's questions on the RFP, I'm happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Looks like not. It looks like these two RFPs are on a similar schedule, so we'll expect these to come to the council, looks like in May sometime.
Correct.
Sounds good. Seeing no other questions or discussion, let's have a roll call vote, please, on Resolution 24-12, which is the municipal engineering request for proposals.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item letter E is Resolution 24-15, which is a Lake Mill Storage Condominium Plat. Misty, would you read that, please?
City Council Resolution 24-15, condominium plat approval, Lake Mill Storage Condominium, 730 Jefferson Street, parcel number 246-0713-1313-018.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion on this one?
I move to approve Resolution 24-15, condominium plat approval for 730 Jefferson Street.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Bishop, seconded by Mr. Fields. Staff?
Good evening, Council. This one you guys probably recognize. Back in October of 23, we issued, or you guys issued, a conditional use for base storage. Once he got going, he actually started building in December and had the idea to condo these off and sell them instead of renting them out. We had a brief conversation with him. We had some paperwork stuff we had to correct, and he said that a couple other municipalities to the east of here, where he does business, had success doing these type of condo storage units. So really nothing changes on our end. Our site plan, the building style, everything really will be the same, other than it's going to be a condo plat versus one parcel.
Thank you, Mr. Evenson. Questions? Mr. Waters?
I'll start with Mr. Evenson. On the, when I see the word condominium, I think of residential occupation. I just wanted to be clear that this is not for residential occupation. It's only for storage.
Yeah, that was for sure. Our knee-jerk reaction too was thinking that there was going to be they were going to try to have a different use in there, but it has been clearly identified to him that this is a storage. It was, a conditional use was issued for storage use only, and he's aware of that. There's not going to be any production. There's not going to be any use outside of what we classify as storage. And they would have to come back for a modification or amendment to the conditional use if there was going to be any sort of usage in an individual condo unit that we may or may not allow. But they're well aware that the use is still the exact same, even though it's condoed off.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just note from your memo that the zoning is general industrial, so residential use wouldn't be typically allowed in that zone, right?
Correct, absolutely, yeah. There's absolutely no way there'd be a residential use there as far as dwelling, sleeping there. What we've run into is people kind of running small little businesses, cabinet making and you know, odds and ends that you can do in a garage type scenario, but we are aware of it, and it's in a pretty high profile area. I think it'd be tough to sneak anything past, you know, the amount of people we have coming past there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Evenson or staff? Mr. Waters?
So what type of utilities will be provided inside this facility?
Right now, he's just going to do electricity, and as Dan was just saying, they originally talked they were going to maybe try to do a service for each condoed off storage facility, but they've backed that off, and they're just going to do one service per building, which is a good sign that they're not planning on doing individual renting out or having some sort of business in there. It's just going to be standard lights and outlets. He has also talked about the existing building that's on there, maybe putting a bathroom in there for patrons when they're using the storage units. There is water and sewer stubbed in, but right now nothing's being used other than electricity.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll just add, and I think this was noted in the resolution itself, that the Plan Commission did discuss this and recommended approval. Okay, if there's no other questions or discussion, let's have a roll call vote, please, on Resolution 24-14, which is the Lake Mill Storage Condominium Plat at 730 Jefferson Street.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, so next item is Resolution 24-16, Drumlin Crossing Condominium Plat Amendment. Misty, would you read that title for us, please?
City Council Resolution 24-16, Condominium Plat Amendment Approval, Drumlin Crossing Townhomes Condominium.
I'll move to approve Resolution 24-17, amending development agreement, Forum Development LLC, located at 1204 South Main Street.
Mr. Waters, we're actually still on 24-16.
I'm skipping things?
Yeah.
I just want to get this meeting over with.
I guess so. They are related, but we started with 24-16.
I'll go ahead and do that one as well.
Okay.
I move to approve Resolution 24-16, Drumlin Crossing Condominium Plat Amendment. That's Forum Development LLC at 1204 South Main Street. See, it's the same address.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, motion by Mr. Waters, seconded by Ms. Quidnow. And there are two related items here, so just starting with 24-16, can we have staff comment?
Sure, this one, as you guys probably have in front of you, you can see this originally was condoed off to be 2 5 units and 2 3 units. They have decided to apply for skipping the last 5 unit for 2 2-unit townhomes side by side. Not a whole lot changes on my end, other than that we're going to have, I was hoping to see them tonight, where there would have been 5 water laterals and 5 sewer laterals stubbed into there. We're going to have them cap that back at the main. But other than that, this is a pretty straightforward one for an amendment.
Mr. Waters?
So it looks like the units are going to be larger, so from a assessment standpoint, they're probably going to be of more value, I would imagine.
Yeah, they had kind of discussed that they had found having the first floor bedrooms was a better upsell for them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's why they chose to go this route and make a modification here for the last couple of buildings.
Well, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? And again, I would note the Plan Commission reviewed this and recommended approval, and I particularly think that change will be helpful, especially for seniors wanting to have that first floor, so I can see where that might be more desirable. Okay, if there's no other discussion, let's have a roll call vote, please, on Resolution 24-16, which is the Drumlin Crossing Condominium Plat Amendment.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so now we have Resolution 24-17, amending the development agreement, and Mr. Could I have you read that title, please?
City Council Resolution 24-16, Condominium Plat Amendment Approval, Drumlin Crossing Townhomes Condominium.
Oh, now we've got a switch on your end as well. We're at 24-17 now.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
Grab the wrong one.
Sorry about
City
that.
Okay.
City Council Resolution 24-17, authorizing the city manager to execute an amendment to the development agreement with Formul Development LLC for Drumlin Crossing Townhomes Condominium Development 1204 South Main Street.
Thank you. Mr. Waters, would you like to go ahead
Sure.
again?
Motion to approve Resolution 24-17.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Waters, seconded by Mr. Fields. Staff comment?
Sure. So the original development agreement did include the original number of units that they've requested the change for. So it does require a change in the development agreement. It doesn't change their obligation to hit their valuation marker. So they're aware of that. So they'll need to do it with one less unit. So I guess in approving this, the city is essentially giving up, the one additional unit that it had originally bargained for in this, but in return, staff does see the value in having the primary bedroom on the first floor and the remaining in the 4 units that they are creating. We don't project a problem hitting the valuation marker based on the assessments that we're seeing of what they've sold, but that is their obligation to do so. If they didn't hit that valuation, they would need to make up the difference in an extra payment to the city.
Any questions from council? So are you saying that the only change in the development agreement is the number of units that have been approved?
The map itself was replaced with a new
okay.
document.
Okay, great. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's have a roll call vote, please, on Resolution 24-17, which is amending the development agreement for Formul Development at 1204 South Main Street.
Mrs. Bishop?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. That concludes council business in open session. Next agenda item is recommendations for future agendas. Mr. Daly, what do you have for us?
I don't have anything to report on right now.
Okay.
There will be plenty of items to come up, but nothing on the
Okay.
top of my mind right now.
Ms. Quidnow?
Given the fact that we had our open session, or our listening session, I want to honor what was discussed at length, and that is that we do some investigation into the Century Building situation and what things can be done, or if anything can be done, to expedite a decision making.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Mrs. Bishop?
Yes, at the last Parks Board meeting, there was a discussion and vote recommending a change in the date for when the Parks Board would meet. The recommendation was to change the date from, what is it, the third Wednesday currently to the second Monday of the month. And the purpose for that was so that the meeting could be held in this room, so that the meeting could be recorded and then broadcast. And it would just be for ease of setup for staff, and that's when this room is available. So I think that should be a future agenda item since it was recommended by the Parks Board. It would require an ordinance with the 3 readings. I would certainly sponsor it. I think the last reading would be on the first date that I will not be here, so I would also seek a co-sponsor for that as well, just for continuity's sake, but that should definitely be an agenda item.
Okay, thank you. And I would be happy to co-sponsor that. I think my understanding is the idea is to give flexibility for the board to choose the date and not even necessarily have it specified in ordinance what the date has to be. So, great. Thank you for working on that and bringing that forward. The only other item that I would mention is that we'll be doing, at our next meeting, we'll do a closed session for one of our regular mid-year check-ins with the city manager. So that'll be at our next.
I actually do have an item we'll be bringing forward.
Yeah.
In years past, there have been multiple studies done on potential regionalization of services, and the city has actually been approached by 2 townships to contract with the city for building inspection services. There is a consolidation of and lack of certified building inspectors, and so we're starting to see townships losing their longtime service providers, and so we will likely have a discussion of a potential intergovernmental agreement to lay out what that relationship would look like, and if the council would like to extend an IGA to those townships. They will be there. The town of Jefferson and the town of Koshkanon are the ones that we are currently in discussions with.
Thank you for bringing that up and bringing that to our attention. I had a question related to that. Now it's escaped me. So, any other items for future agendas? Okay, if not, then our next agenda item is to convene into closed session to discuss city manager employment agreement pursuant to section 19.851C of Wisconsin statutes, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. So can I get a motion to go into closed session, please?
Motion to move into closed session?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Waters, seconded by Mr. Fields. All in favor, please signify by raising your hands. Okay, that's a 5-0 vote. So we will be going, ending the TV broadcast now. We'll be convening into closed session. We'll reconvene off television and adjourn after that. Thank you, everyone. Good night.